Are you moving?
I'm done. I'm done moving. The tree's moving behind me.
Anyway,
Welcome
welcome
back.
back. Welcome back because we have another thing to talk about.
Yes, the Alana and Mo show, where we
Yeah.
bring together technology and what's the other thing? Spirituality. Married.
Married together. So I wanted to bring up education, right? Like we do with very sensitive topic because we have two boys,
Yes.
middle school and high school. We see how they get education, which is terrifying, right? Like the
Right. Which is
Right.
terrifying.
Can you
Watching
skip
it,
that
we're like,
part?
oh my God. We're like, oh
Well,
shit.
you guys are wasting your time here. But
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
we can't say that. We can only say it here.
Right. I mean, we kind of have told them.
Yeah, we told them it's
Kind
like,
of so.
it's heartbreaking, right? Because like,
Yeah.
they spending how many 6, 7 hours a day, like sitting on the chair, like trying to like learn, get knowledge from other people,
Right. Right. Memorize information.
memorizing information.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
already available, like
There's
on.
a teacher that's right. The teacher hold all the information.
Right.
They probably don't know all of this, right? So
Right.
they deliver the information to the children. That's
Yeah.
and that was good, like 50, 40 years ago, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like, we didn't have this like channel of information, but now we
Right.
do. Now
Right.
information is free, information is everywhere. So the other day I was reading an article that teachers start using ChatGPT, which is great. They start using ChatGPT, but they're using it to deliver information still. You
Hmm.
know? They are using ChatGPT to kind of like maybe introduce the kids to this technology and like so they can learn on their own
Right.
things that they are interested in. The teacher is still using maybe like to produce tests. They're using
Right.
ChatGPT or like grading. I don't know exactly what they're using to, but I'm like, so I was like, oh, that's good step, but
Right. Step one. It's a good
step
step one.
one, but
Yeah.
like I feel like all the education system needs to rethink what they're doing.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Well, if we think about that, we're no longer hiring for knowledge, right? That's kind of like a big,
Yeah.
like the donk, like
Mm-hmm.
hiring for knowledge anymore because the knowledge is already readily available. What are we really hiring for? Right. And I think we talked about this in the last podcast. Like
Right.
we're going to need to be hiring for creativity, the ability to collaborate, the ability to use your imagination,
Right.
like the ability to spot an opportunity, to innovate, to be able to tap into kind of like their higher consciousness, actually, to
Yep.
find your truth, because the information that we get like through the heart center, essentially, like when we're, for
Mhm.
example, in meditation, is coming to us specifically for a reason, because that is our intuition.
Yep.
And what comes out of that are unbelievably cool ideas, right, that we get to execute on. Like we would then use AI to execute on those really cool ideas, because AI can't do that.
Right.
It's waiting for us to do that. So like we're almost just now hiring for folks who are like highly in touch and in tune with information that's coming from the universe, if you will, which fuels creativity,
Yep.
and spotting opportunities, and being able to take things that they have learned with other things that they've learned, and kind of like create a cross section there, which is the definition of innovation, right? So having an interest then, I think, in multiple disciplines is also another thing that we're hiring for, like wanting to kind of like create from that is
Right.
what we're hiring for, which is what I think we need to teach.
Right. Right. Like the old way, like we used to hire people for skills, right? Like
Right.
that's what you acquire skills. I went to Charlotte schools like maybe like 4 months ago, like they had like no Eli school, like they had like open house, right?
Mhm.
And I was talking to the teacher, Eli's going to high school, so it's like they try to convince you to go to this high school. And the teacher come to me and she's like, At the end of, hey Phoenix, he's, he's like, at the end of this class, they're gonna get a certificate. It's an Adobe certificate for like, I don't know, one of the Adobe Photoshop, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's what's wrong with school. Like we try to give them skills, but they actually need understanding of, like they need confidence, they need understanding of like how to connect 3, 4 things together, right? So they're
Right.
like polymath, like we need like uh you know people that can actually mix data from different disciplines. That's the
Exactly.
skills that we need.
Have it like knowing what it is that you're excited to mix information from, right? So like if
Mhm.
I know like that I want to create something using Adobe, right? I can like easily just have that done, through AI if I understand how to prompt that, but I need to know what I want to create.
Right.
Right. And if I know what it is that I want to create, now I'm informing, right, AI to just use Adobe. I don't need to get a certification in order to have that kind of output. And then that is the thing that can literally be, what it is that I bring to the market.
Right.
And so here I am, I'm tapping into the part of me that knows what I love and is curious about how to actually bring it to fruition.
Right.
Right. And there are multiple disciplines that you can cross over, like art with technology in order to do so. Like if you think about like any of our greatest minds, any of our
Right.
philosophers,
Right.
like, Socrates,
Mm-hmm.
Galileo, even
Yeah.
Jesus, none of them were only just skilled in the one,
No.
they were able to become experts in astronomy, astrology, architecture, and take all of that information, like even like science or geology, history, take all of that information, and in that information, in the comparing and the contrasting of that information, that is a philosopher.
Right. Right.
That is, and now that philosophy is that which comes from them based
Mm-hmm.
upon what they've gauged from all that they've learned, all of that information that they were able to receive.
Right.
Now, information able to receive is not I'm memorizing formulas and
Right.
fractions,
Right.
or that I'm memorizing how to use Adobe,
Right.
because I'm just asking myself, what am I like from a curiosity
Right.
standpoint? What do I want to know?
Right.
And I'm receiving and retrieving that information in real time, and being able to do it from multiple disciplines that I'm just interested in, comparing and contrasting to become a real-time philosopher, which is me being a creator in this world. And I think that's what we're really hiring for.
Right.
I think
Right.
that's what we've got to teach.
Right. Like I think in school, I think that's like part of the system. They the outcome of school is they want to have people that can execute on tasks. Right.
Right. Right.
That's what they like. Oh, this one is a lawyer, and this one is they don't like teach you like bigger picture of like, okay, what do you love?
Right.
Like, oh, you like video games. Okay. Like now you can do, it can be a designer, it can be game designer, it can be a programmer. You can do all those things to actually execute on your ideas. Right.
Right. Right.
And I don't know if these, like, definitely not the schools that our children go into, or colleges. I don't think colleges teaching those. It's all about like, oh, I'm gonna be in this box, and it's
What can I memorize on a regular basis that is
right.
easy enough for me, that will make me enough money that I can then shoot back to a potential employer to show them that they should hire me,
Yeah.
is really what's happening. And the information that they're getting in college is completely outdated information, because these folks have not been in the corporate space for potentially decades.
Right. Right.
Right. And so they don't really have the hands-on application anyway. Like they haven't had that anyway, but here we are still learning in the old way, when in actuality, none of that is going to be needed.
Right.
So I don't know what schools, maybe there are schools that, actually look at the child and say, what do you love? And how can we align with AI to execute on that and make it bigger? Like, how do
Right.
we take what you love, get curious about it, find the multiple disciplines that we could bring together to actually bring it into this 3D world, right? So like I asked Shiloh, our older son, in the car the other day, we were talking a little bit about this because I know we said in the last podcast, like I told him you could just build a website if you know how to ask ChatGPT, it'll just do it for you. So there goes the website building class. He was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, so anything you want to make, like
Right.
you can, if you know what you love, what do you love? And he looked at me like,
Yeah, right. Like, because to do that, you need to have different kind of teachers also, right? It's not the teachers that, I want to come at 8 and leave at 9 and at 2 and just like teach this subject, and I want my
right,
2 months off in the summer. You need different kind of people, right?
right,
People that really have experience, right? Like people from the field. So it's a different kind of system.
right.
Um, I'm thinking of like, I don't know, like so much waste. As you're speaking about, like, I'm like, oh my God, let me think about like all the waste, like what the wasteful subject that our children's
Oh my God.
learning every day. I'm like, why did you learn Italian? How many hours a week they spend on Italian? Like
Like memorize the alphabet.
memorizing things that they're gonna forget.
Memorization is over.
Yeah.
Like memorization is no longer needed, right? And I remember when I had asked Shiloh what he loves, he told me a while ago, we were talking about this, like also like just maybe a year or so ago, even before all this started, when I was asking what he loves. And he said he remembered he used to really have a strong imagination.
Mm,
It was almost like trained out of him in
right.
school. So that at this point, because we prioritize memorization,
Yeah.
imagination took a back seat. We actually like closed down like the part of ourselves that holds, our truth and our imagination, and our ability to execute on it, which is that heart center, knowing who we really are. It's been trained out of us. And then Eli, our other son, just magically goes to his what he calls like an imagination place, which means he zones out at school because what he says learning is
Mhm.
boring. Because it's more interesting in his imagination place, which is essentially meditating with your eyes open. And I've told him, just stay there, because Einstein did not get the theory of relativity when he was at school. He was a
Right.
tradesman,
Right.
right? And because he always was in that imagination place and asking all of these questions internally, they say his brain was wired for light. So here you are now opening yourself up to all of that information that can come at us from nowhere, which is intuition. It's the same exact thing, but we have to open ourselves up to it. We can't do that when we shut down those parts of us that can sense things
Right.
and just prioritize brain only memorization.
Yeah. It's like some of the things that they teaching in school, they good. It's just the way they're teaching it is wrong, right? Like so. I'm looking at Eli's that he's doing now algebra and math and like equations and all of that, and I remember loving it. I love the skills of doing it, but I didn't understand why am I doing it, right? Like why do I need to solve this algebra y and x with like all this unknown? Only later in life I kind of connecting. Oh, that's how you do predictive models.
Right.
That's
How
how,
many years did
that's
that
how that's how machine learning actually
take?
based on formula,
Yeah,
and what I really need in math is just like figure out the formula that I
right.
can actually plug the unknowns to get me predictive analysis. So I'm like, why they're not teaching it this way? I don't think the kids like, oh, I think probably someone gonna say like they're not ready for it.
Yeah. You
Uh,
want to know something? It took you how many decades to figure that you could do predictive models?
decades, right?
Like literally like 20
Right,
years,
right.
25 years. Do you remember I told you when I'd call you from the doctor's office and you hung up on me? It was just like it came to me. Again, knowledge from nowhere, intuition, because you're open to receiving. A few years ago, I had like a vision of you doing predictive models before
Hmm.
it was even like a major thing.
Right.
Maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, I feel like you could be getting into predictive.
Hmm.
You were like, like you're all in that husband mode, like, don't tell me what to do. And then here we are a few years later, just putting together those pieces from childhood, but because like you're
But
open.
that's crazy, right? Because I've been doing predictive, like the skills of predictive or like building models, right? Like the algebra regression, all of that. I did it like when I was Eli's age, right? And
Right,
I loved it.
exactly.
you
exactly.
know? So like if you go to the kids and say like maybe starting from, oh, you want to predict something, right? And then
Right,
teach them the math, right? Like you don't need to teach them the skill to
right,
solve it because there are tools that
right.
does it for you, right? Like
Right. Would you like to predict something? Ask that to
right,
a child and then be like,
right.
I want to
Yeah, I
predict.
want to predict. I want to
Oh,
predict how much
yeah.
money, like, like
Yeah.
come
I
up with
want
all
to
these
predict
ideas. I'm
that.
like, okay,
Yeah,
let's train the models. Let's build out,
exactly.
and then
Yeah.
like you don't need to teach them how to solve something that machine can do, right? Like,
Right. Right. Just find out what's exciting to
right,
predict.
right.
So that gives them like a little bit of a clue as to like what they like,
Exactly,
curious about, what
exactly.
they want to make bigger,
Right,
just from there, like this whole like having a plan of what you're going to be by college is just based upon, like we said before, like what do you want to memorize the most? And all of that is going away, and we're kind of being forced into it with AI. And I love it because it's a new way of being, but yet at the same time, it's the oldest way of being, which is again, tapping into our truth, what we love, what we want to create, not being afraid to do that, and having the conversations around what are the modalities to get us there. How do we make our imagination bigger? How do we make our intuition something that we can hear, that we know how to listen to, and how do we make it okay to kind of talk about these things and maybe try different things on? We're like, we experimented with something and it didn't work out, and it's not labeled failure, it's
right.
just labeled growth. Like all of this is kind of like the beginning of where I think we need to go back to education and kind of have a redo,
Right.
so that we do know who to and what to hire for, because we've prepped those kids for that now.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this technology gonna make us feel silly at some point, right?
Right.
Like, like what are we doing? Like when you remove the fears, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose like everything that I know.
Yeah.
And you start like, oh my God, it's very silly to teach kids like remembering what, like 20 words every week,
Yeah.
like uh
Yeah.
to have
Exactly.
better now language is important, right? Like expressing yourself is really important. I don't know, like I know you're a writer, but like what would be your take on, right? Because machine can actually write
I can.
very
Yeah.
good, right? Like
Yeah.
so like how you gonna like do you need to learn how to write, I guess? Like, you
Well,
know?
that like goes into like what are one of the modalities that we could use to open up like the way in which to listen to our intuition, like the
Mm-hmm.
way in which to flow out that which is inside of us, that's coming through us from the universe, is essentially
Mm-hmm.
like out through the heart center, like down our arms, out our fingers, out the pen and onto the paper. How do we do that? Because that's something that again AI cannot do,
Right.
because what you're going to get from that when you're just like what they call free writing, which is writing without editing, you're going to get stuff like, especially like after meditating or breathing, you're going to get stuff that you can't even believe that you're writing, and you're
Mm-hmm.
so much and so fast because it's all literally just coming right through you. It's essentially your soul expressing itself like on a piece of paper.
Right.
That stuff will come that you never even dreamed of, that you couldn't even plan, that when you go back and read it, which is what I do, and then put it into AI, have them edit it,
Right.
right? And then like share that,
Right.
have that be like, maybe it's a strategy, because you just like, how many times when you're not thinking do you get the best idea? Wow, I just came with like a hole in the market that I just spotted, or I just came with an idea for a webcast which we're doing, or I just came with like an idea for like a healing circle for folks that believe they're light workers, and I just saw the whole thing. Like all of a sudden when you open yourself up to it and you write it down,
Right.
it's living and breathing, and we can use AI to edit it, to execute it, to
Right.
power it, to find, logistically the people and the funds that we need, understand like where to do it, the best times and places. And that's the way in which that we coexist with this unbelievable technology that, so many folks are just so afraid of, when they just feel like, well, I'm memorizing and what if I
Right.
get replaced?
Right. Like with writing in English, right? So I was like learning Israel. I learned English for 8 years in Israel, but in the worst way possible. That when I came to the state, I couldn't even speak. Right, I went to school
Right.
eight
I remember
years
that.
learning. Yeah, you
When
do
I met
remember
you.
that.
And
But
that's
I'm
why I
like,
liked you. I
yeah,
liked you because you couldn't speak. I was like, he's just good. Like,
yeah,
and you
perfect.
learned to
Like
speak. And I was like,
a
damn
very
it.
quiet guy.
Yeah, I liked
In
you better
reality,
the other
so
way.
8 years, 4 hours a week, learning English, but in a way that I couldn't speak, right? Or write like, right? So because the way that they taught us in school, it was like memory, right? Like you have to, after that, you put S, and after that, and the sentence need to have like intro, body, and reasoning and all. It's all kind of rules. And I think what you're saying is like, it's good to learn how to express yourself with writing, but turn it into like the rules can happen maybe with the machines, right? You can just put in ChatGPT and it kind of
Yes.
reformat in a way that we all as a human understand like better my point, right?
I didn't even know that I like most of what I write comes out in rhyme. It's like straight up
Mm,
poetry. And like I'll read it on like TikTok or something, and people are like, it's like that which needed to come out of me. Maybe that was something that needed to be healed. Maybe it's something that other people need to hear. Like I don't even question it, because as soon as it comes out, it's always like, wow. Like if we let ourselves have this freedom where we are free, but we know we then can like rely on AI to, kind of like formulate in a fashion that,
right.
makes the most shareable, even advise on a strategy of like, wow, yeah, that's going to resonate with people. Here's the best way to share it. First put it on YouTube like this, then share it like that. I mean, it's incredible how much AI is like just sitting there waiting for your creative, words. It's just sitting there waiting for it.
Right. No, it's just fascinating. Like, I don't write a lot, but ChatGPT helped me to write a lot of good things, like
Yes.
from, email strategy and things like that. So definitely I think people should take advantage of this tool.
Yeah, I mean, here we are. We're starting a company together. Like we could just like say it. We'll just say it. We're doing that. We're doing it. And we are what would normally
Oh
take,
my God, yeah.
a ton of funding, a ton of like college education from this. This is not what either one of us took in school.
Right,
Like Shala was like, "Did you learn that in college?" I'm like, "No, just was
right.
curious, and had life experiences." And without the funding, and would normally take, I don't know what, like 8, 9 people, maybe 12 people to just get this
Yeah.
going.
So
We're
like
doing this for
designing the website, writing the website, like
yeah, building a deck,
strategy.
writing the deck. I mean, outreach, who to reach out to, what to say, unique selling proposition, all of that, even to chopping up this video,
Right.
and putting it across social media, all automated,
But
like all using AI. And so that means everyone can do this. I
right.
didn't have to go to college for this. Why do I have to spend a ton of money getting educated on things that I could just find myself now? And the only thing that I really need, and it would be great if colleges could start to become, kind of like these ideation labs where we tap into,
Mhm.
and we tap into our intuition, we expand on our imagination, we get better at collaborating. It's no longer like power over people, it's power with people. Let's, kind of like democratize everything going forward, especially, like corporate, and kind of break down all the silos, and do this together, because we can all have our own company. We can all do this. We're not the only ones to do this. We can all do this.
Maybe we should start new university,
Yeah. We'll
get
call it magic.
all the
Magic.
teachers a really high paid job, like awesome people to do.
Yeah, pay them well.
Yeah, pay them well because like you really need people with different kind of skills, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to teach what I taught last year, and this is like every student's going to be different,
Yes.
So yeah, hopefully, I don't know. They're gonna go to college. Maybe yes, maybe not. Our
Well,
kid,
I know Shiloh wants to go for the quote college
I
experience.
can get the experience.
I totally get that. And I think there's a lot of pros in college. And I think, there are probably some colleges that are starting to catch on to what we're talking about. But at the same time, it's still painful to watch them study.
Yeah,
It,
wasting.
it really is. It's painful to watch them study.
At
Yeah.
least I see that they're really not interested. They have good grades, right?
Just because for them,
Just for them, right?
they won't not have good grades.
But they're not like really. Oh my God, because some kids I do like to get the passionate about schools, right? They're just like I
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
put work and get things out,
Yeah.
get the grades. But they kind of like, I know it's bullshit, but
Right.
I have to have the good grade, which is good because they have like sense of pride and
Right.
willingness to succeed. I think that's important. But
But I think the kids that are like enjoying getting a grade back, it's like a gratification of like, yeah, I'm ticking a box. Like I gave you what you asked me for. I shot back that memorization
but
skill for you, and now I got back a grade. When we have to start to ask ourselves, like, how do we truly define progress? Because
Mhm.
is it being rewarded for your memorization skills and then, applying it to things? Or is progress actually, like being excited about life?
Right, yeah, right.
Like is progress
Entrepreneurship, like all the,
being
like
an
you need to do,
entrepreneur?
like everybody has a passion. Every kid has a passion.
Yes.
You just need to, okay, let's create something, whatever you want. Let's just create
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up episode
That's
2.
wrap up is
I'm
two too.
glad
Yeah,
we
yeah.
both
Let's
wore.
go have coffee or something.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna have a matcha. I'm glad that once again, like episode 1, we both wore the same color.
Is it?
I think. Are you wearing blue?
I had like a different shirt, but
Oh, is it gray? Oh, because
I
you're
think it was
dark. Too
coffee.
dark, by the way. Next time you need to be a bit lighter. But
I like my skin or
no,
what are you talking
no, that's
about?
terrible. No, the lighting in your room.
Oh man, lighting in the room.
Lighting room. For folks that are going to be following us, of course, you need to like us and subscribe. Like I have to like technically say those
Yeah,
things.
that's like
You
the
guys see, we usually wear the same things, like
yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
All right,
good.
signing off. Bye.
Bye bye.